Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Stormworks. We are once again working on our oil rig, and we are over here next to our diesel tank. So this is kind of what we're going to be working on in the first episode, or first part of this episode. We're going to start adding some more liquid storage tanks, so the refinery has some place to put all the diesel and jet fuel you are refining. And then later on in the episode, we're probably going to do a little bit more work on the superstructure, trying to make that look a little bit better. We kind of left it off in a rocky spot last time. I wasn't super happy with how it was looking, so we got to go back and do some more work on that. But yeah, that's pretty much what we got in tune for today's episode. You can see right now, I'm just going to be copying the exact dimensions of our other fuel tank over there, and we're going to make 2 tanks for diesel and then 2 tanks for jet fuel. So all together, it should be about 30 to 35,000 liters of each liquid. And then we'll figure out about some of the piping and try to get a way to export it, but that'll come down the road a little bit more. And I think I have a pretty cool system for that you guys will see later on. For the meantime, we're going to get these tanks in. We're going to get them painted. We've got a lot of kind of decorating that we got to do to them to make them look a lot better. And then obviously we got to clean a lot of the pipes up too. So I know I mentioned we probably will work on the superstructure. That's if we have time. This episode might be a little bit on the longer side of things, but we'll see. We'll see how long it takes to kind of get these tanks up and looking a lot better. But for the meantime, we got to kind of spawn these in, and then we're going to have to add a bunch of fluid vents and in pipes and out pipes and gauges and all sorts of other good stuff. So once we get these in, we can finally kind of finish up our catwalk with the rest of the pipes. And that is going to be just about it for a lot of the pipe routing for now. Right now, I'm just kind of adding a counterweight because I expect this thing to tip over once we spawn it in. I'm still working on the stabilization system, so that'll get figured out at a later date. I do a lot of that off camera, so if you guys are expecting to see that, I can talk about it in a later episode, but for the time being, you guys won't see too much of that. It's mostly going to be moving weights and then also propellers, and you guys can kind of see the moving weights right now. So I change a lot of that to battle cannons just because they're a little bit more dense. If you didn't know, the battle cannon barrel extensions are 40 mass in 3 blocks, and the weight blocks are 10 mass per block. So they're slightly heavier. If you need a little bit more dense packed mass, that is what I would suggest you'd use. But real quick, before we get into the time-lapse section of the video, if you guys like this series, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps our channel out quite a bit, and we're just going to get right into the building. So I'll come back when we've got a little bit more done, and we'll talk a little bit more about the catwalks and some of the stuff I have planned for that. All right, well, we got some of the feeds routed, and that is something we didn't quite finish up from last episode when we were building our refinery. So those black pipes that we added are the fill pipes from the oil refining tower into our oil tank, or into our jet fuel tanks. And I tried to route this as cleanly as I could. As usual, I usually spend maybe a little bit too much time on the piping, and it still needs a little bit of work. So we're going to go ahead and try to clean up that section where it kind of goes under the other two pipes. I'm not in love with how that looks, so we might just change it into kind of like these hard blocks. And I think that'll probably look a lot better. But other than that, we are going to have to add a few more pipes on the upper side where the slurry kind of runs and the oil itself runs. And that'll just kind of be for exporting the fluids. So that is kind of what I was talking about earlier when I said we've got to finish up the catwalks where the rest of the pipes go. That catwalk is... basically it's not really a catwalk per se, but it's a support structure for all the pipes. I don't want them just floating in the air, and it serves as a catwalk because you can get up there and kind of service the rest of them. So another thing we need to do is we need to add some relief valves into all of these tanks. So we're going to add both fluid relief valves and gas relief valves. So the fluids can flow from tank to tank, and then also the air can escape when they are filling up, as well as the air can go in when they are emptying. So that'll make all of the fluids kind of move a lot better. Don't need one there. We're going to put one in between the two diesel tanks, but a little different with the diesel tank because the rearward-most tank is feeding our generator. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a pump that pumps fluid into the rearward tank when the generator is running. And this is just a way to kind of guarantee that the generator will get fuel even if one of the tanks is empty. So right now we're going to move on over to that kind of catwalk section that I was talking about, and I'm just trying to figure out a good looking support structure for all of these pipes. As you can see, there's quite a few. We're going to add a lot more too. There's going to be diesel out and jet fuel out over here, as well as a diesel fill. So we've got to add 3 more pipes onto this catwalk, and that will kind of be, for the most part, most of our piping done after we get all of that in. So the only other thing we really need to set up is how to export the fluids, and that shouldn't be too hard. They're all going to be kind of over on this side of the oil rig. But enough of that. We are, like I said, just kind of placing some blocks around. We're going to do the same thing as we did with the other ones. We're going to kind of cover this up, and then we're going to put some railings on the top to kind of make it look like a grid flooring. And then that, again, should be, for the most part, a lot of the pipe management that we're going to have to do. So that's kind of exciting, kind of a big milestone for the oil rig. Means we're getting there. And this is, most of the technical parts are done at this point after we get this done, again, other than the exporting the fluids. But that shouldn't be too hard. And then, obviously, I've been working on the automation in the background and stuff, but once we get all this done, we're going to have to go back inside and start decorating the interior, finish all that up, and then it should be, for the most part, done. So there's a few more things we got to add to the deck and whatnot. We're going to have a room with a diving bell in it, so you guys can go down to the wellhead and service it / check it out. We also got to get a crane in here, and then we also have to make a workshop and probably a medical center. I don't know, but we do need to kind of add a lot more buildings. I want it to look a lot more full on the deck, as well as the more buildings we add. I was kind of talking in the earlier episodes of this series that the oil rigs are usually a lot more vertically built than you think they are. The more buildings on the deck will kind of help that out. So that is one of the other really big things that we need to get done. But for the most part, a lot of the technical kind of automation part of the oil drilling and refining is going to be more or less done. And my cat is making noise. I'll be right back. Well, it's been a long time since the cat has made a cameo in one of my videos, so I'll just leave it in. She is fine. Just being needy, and so I took care of that. But we're back, we are building, and we are just kind of making this look a lot better now. All right, well, it appears that we are spending a long time on this, so we will get back to the superstructure later. But the last kind of things that I wanted to add to this is I want to obviously add some hatches so you guys can go into the tank and inspect everything, which means we also got to add ladders. And then I'm adding these relief ports on the top. And the reason I did those on the top is mostly just to kind of get the fumes away from everything else. I think it looks kind of nice. We're also going to add some lights up there just to kind of mark the high tanks in the nighttime. So they're going to have some blinking red lights. We're going to put blinking red lights all over this thing. But for the time being, I am just kind of going to work on trying to make these little catwalks that go across each tank so you can inspect them. And then we'll get a ladder up there too so you guys can climb on top and then get in that way. But for the most part, this is kind of what they're going to look like. I'm not going to change these tanks too much. I'm happy with the size. And right now I'm just going to be working on adding those lights. Now I do move these lights around a little bit. I end up putting them next to the fluid or the gas relief valves. But there are our blinkers, and then that way at nighttime that kind of shows, there's a taller structure here. Don't run into it when you're flying, which is probably pretty important considering they're full of flammable fluids. But that is just another little detail I like to add. I'm going to paint them up red and white too, so they kind of stand out during the day. And we'll get them on a blinker a little bit later. I'm going to add these same kind of lights on top of the superstructure and the wellhead and the refining tower, and they're going to kind of be all over just so basically it can guarantee that you're not going to just run into it without seeing it first, which is probably a pretty good thing to do. So we're just in the microcontroller editor. I'm just going to be making blinkers real quick. I don't want them all to blink at the same time, so I'm going to overcomplicate this a little bit, and we're just going to throw a bunch of capacitors down with a blinker. This will kind of shorten the logic footprint up quite a bit when you can stick it into a microcontroller. So when you can, I advise that you do. It's obviously not necessary, but with something like this, a lot of times, like if you just want a blinking light, you can just get that into a 1x1 microcontroller, which is much better than the constant on signal and blinker blocks, which would be 1x3. So generally, I would kind of advise that you do that just to kind of save on space and stuff. Plus, I think the logic blocks kind of they look a little silly just because they kind of have their symbol on them and whatnot. So unless you really hide them away, having them out is kind of a little goofy looking. And once I saw them blinking all in succession like that, I decided it really wasn't worth it. So I'm just going to stick them on the same blinker. They're going to blink together. But I will have a few of these on the oil rig that are all timed differently too. And I think that's kind of an important thing, just because if all of the lights are blinking all at once, it kind of I don't know. I mean, it does the same job, but it doesn't seem as realistic to me, if that makes sense. When you switch those kind of things on, they are not going to all blink at the same exact speed. And usually they're going to have different switches anyways. So the one's on top of the wellhead, and you can see there's already one on the wellhead. And forgive the noise, guys. I had some rockets that I was experimenting with lifting it up. But anyways, we're going to hop in the tank real quick and just make sure all of the ladders work. And they kind of do, kind of don't, of course, normal Stormworks things. And then the only other thing that I really want to do is, well, I got to fix these ports quick because they're not actually hooked up to anything, and that'll cause a problem. But I do want to make those little catwalks look a little better. I think they kind of look not great, if I'm being honest. And we're also going to put a little warning block up here that kind of says, danger, this is a suffocation hazard and whatnot. So obviously, if you crawl into a fuel tank full of fumes, probably not great for your health. So I'm just going to put a little warning up here next to all of the hatches. And it looks like I placed some of those lights incorrectly, so I'm going to have to move 2 of those. But that is, for the most part, kind of what our tanks are going to look like. Like I said, we'll change the little catwalk runways things quick. I'm going to change them to railings, and just some diagonal railings, and I think that ends up looking a lot nicer. They're a little long, but that's fine. We can kind of offset them and make it work. and I'm just going to paint them yellow and get rid of those pipes. So I think that'll look a lot better. If you've ever seen kind of a lot of times when you have to go up into like a dangerous place like that, there's all of these little loops that you hook a carabiner into. So if you do fall, you don't fall and obviously die. That's kind of what those are supposed to be imitating. It's just something you can hook your harness into. And also, you know, when you yourself are walking up there in Stormworks, the railing kind of helps you stay on the walkway itself. But that's all we have for this episode, guys. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel out a ton. And I'll catch you on the next one. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.